The insult came in the form of a bill. Ambassador Rell Osun of the Concord read it aloud in the open session chamber, her voice pitched for the recording drones that fed 1,000 worlds. Earth, she announced, owed reparations for wasted transit lanes, for the fuel signatures of primitive vessels, for the diplomatic hours squandered on a species too young to matter. The chamber, a vast bowl of tiered stone benches under a false sky, rippled with the soft clicking that passed for laughter among the seated delegations. Daniel Voss, free of that name, call him Daniel Marr, senior attaché to the human mission, sat below the Concord bench and did not move. He had a slate in his lap and a single unread message on it, and he was watching the numbers on the reparations schedule the way a man watches a card he already knows is marked. The human presence here, Osun continued, is a courtesy. Courtesies can be withdrawn. Marr set the slate face down. That was the agreed signal. Somewhere in the dark between stars, a woman named Captain Ione Hadley read a single character on her own screen and began to turn her ships. The chamber did not know yet. The chamber was enjoying itself. Osun expected a speech. Every young species gave a speech. They pleaded eloquence. They invoked shared futures. They begged for standing. Marr had read the transcripts of the species who came before, the ones whose lanes were now Concord property, and every one of them had answered an insult with words. He rose, and the clicking sharpened in anticipation. The Concord has filed a claim against Earth, he said. Earth acknowledges the claim. Earth declines to pay. He sat down. The silence that followed was not respect. It was confusion, the pause of a predator that has bitten something and felt it bite back. Osun leaned toward her aides. Marr watched her recalculate. She was intelligent, and her intelligence was the problem, because intelligence assumed there was a rational reason a weak species would refuse a debt it could not enforce, and she began looking for the leverage he must be hiding. She did not look up. Up was where the lanes converged. The Concord had built its wealth on transit control, on the choke points where faster-than-light corridors narrowed to threadable gaps, and for generations no one had contested those gaps, because contesting them meant war with a fleet that guarded every door. That fleet was real. Marr had never doubted it. He had simply spent 4 years mapping where it was not. Recess, Osun said. The human delegation will remain. They kept him in an antechamber of polished blue stone. An aide brought water he did not drink. Through the wall, he could feel the chamber's floor humming as delegations queried their governments, and he imagined the questions racing outward. What did the humans have? What did we miss? Why is the young one calm? The answer was that Hadley's task force had been drifting for 11 no. The answer was that her ships had been drifting for 3 years. Cold, engines dark, riding the slow current of an unmapped tributary corridor the Concord had dismissed as too shallow to carry warships. The Concord measured a corridor's worth by how much mass it could move at speed. Humans had measured it by whether a hull could fit through if it went slow enough and patient enough, and did not care about arriving on any schedule but its own. 26 vessels. Not a great number. Enough. Osun returned with a proposal, and it was a good one. Which was how Marr knew she had understood at least part of the trap. She offered to reduce the claim. She offered Earth an observer seat. She offered, in the careful language of a power that has felt the floor shift, a partnership. You are refusing, she said, as though you have an alternative to refusal. I would like to know what it is before I decide how much of it to believe. You'll see it, Marr said, in about an hour. Threats bore me. It isn't a threat. A threat is a thing you can still prevent. She studied him. He could see her weighing whether to arrest him, and he could see her decide against it, because arresting an ambassador during open session would cost her standing with the neutral benches she needed, and she was the kind of strategist who never spent a resource she might need later. That caution was the wound he had been aiming at for 4 years. The Concord's whole doctrine was the husbanding of force, the refusal to commit until commitment was safe. It made them impossible to provoke into a mistake. It also made them slow. The chamber reconvened because the neutral delegations demanded it. They wanted the human matter resolved so the session could proceed, and Osun could not refuse them without looking afraid. She took her bench. Marr took his seat below her. The false sky brightened toward the artificial noon that marked full session. That was when the sky went wrong. Not everywhere. In one quadrant, above the Concord bench, the projected stars flickered and a real feed cut through. Patched into the chamber's own systems by codes Marr had spent 2 of his 4 years acquiring one careless technician at a time. The feed showed the outer marker of the capital system. It showed the shallow tributary corridor the Concord had never bothered to guard. It showed Hadley's ships coming through. They came slow. That was the detail no one in the chamber could process, because Concord warfare was fast, was the sudden, overwhelming arrival of superior force, and these human hulls emerged from the corridor mouth at a crawl, scarred and cold and utterly without urgency, and the lack of urgency was more frightening than any charge could have been. A charging enemy wants something from you. These ships wanted nothing. They had already arrived at the only place that mattered. The clicking had stopped. Osun was on her feet. This is an act of war. No, Marr said, and now he stood too, so the neutral benches could hear him clearly. War is what you file a claim to justify. You filed the claim first. We simply answered the part of it that was true. You said courtesies can be withdrawn. He gestured at the sky, at the slow bright shapes settling over the capital's undefended throat. We withdrew ours. The Concord fleet was real, and it was 3 corridors away, guarding the choke points that had mattered yesterday. To recall it meant abandoning those doors. To leave it meant leaving the capital open. Osun had built her power on never having to make that choice, and Marr had spent 4 years arranging the single hour in which she would have to make it in front of every delegation she ruled. She gave the order to recall the fleet. It was the correct order. It was also the confession, broadcast live to 1,000 worlds, that the doors had never been as guarded as the Concord claimed, that the whole architecture of transit control had always been a bluff held together by the certainty that no one weak enough to challenge it would ever be patient enough. The neutral benches began, very quietly, to talk among themselves. Hadley's ships did not fire. That was the irreversible thing, the choice Marr had carried alone into the chamber and could not take back once made. Her orders, agreed months ago in a room on Earth, were to arrive and hold and do nothing else. One shot would make them invaders. Restraint made them something the Concord had no answer for, a fleet that had beaten the system without breaking a single law the Concord could name. He had argued against restraint. Once he had wanted the guns. Standing in the chamber now, watching Osun's authority drain into the silence, he understood that the guns would have saved her. Violence she could have answered. This she could only survive by pretending it had not happened, and the recording drones would not let her. "Withdraw your ships," Osun said, and for the first time her voice had a crack in it, "and we will discuss the claim." "There is no claim," Marr said. "You'll vacate it before you sit down, because the alternative is explaining to every bench in this room why your fleet was in the wrong place. And you'll do it yourself, out loud, so they hear you do it." He was asking her to dismantle her own standing with her own mouth. It was crueler than a shot, and they both knew it. She looked at the sky one more time, at the cold, patient hulls that had cost her nothing and taken everything, and Marr saw the exact moment she chose survival over pride. The Concord, she said to the drones, to the 1,000 worlds, withdraws its claim against Earth. The clicking did not return. Something had shifted in the room that clicking could not cover. Later, when the session had scattered and the neutral delegations were requesting private meetings with the human mission at a rate that would keep Marr working for a year, he went back to the empty chamber. The false sky had been restored. The stars were fake again, arranged for comfort. He found Osun still at her bench, alone, looking up at them. "You could have destroyed my capital," she said without turning. "It would have been kinder." "I know. Why didn't you?" Marr thought about Hadley's ships, still holding, still cold, still doing nothing, waiting for the order to turn around and go home the slow way they had come. "Because you'd have understood a weapon," he said. "I needed you to understand us." He left her sitting under the manufactured stars. On the floor above, a human ship began, very slowly, to come about.